Hello and welcome to the Duluth News Tribune's Bulldog Insider Podcast. I'm your host, Matt Wellens, the Bulldogs hockey beat reporter at the News Tribune.
And I'm Zach Schneider, the television voice of Bulldogs hockey at My Nine Sports.
This week on the podcast, we are taking all your questions about the Bulldogs men's and women's hockey teams. You all had a lot of them sent in for us. To help us answer all those questions, we are going to welcome back the voice of Bulldogs hockey on KDAL 610 AM and 103.9 FM. Welcome back, Bruce Ciskie.
Thanks for having me again, guys. The first one went so well, you couldn't help yourselves.
Ratings were through the roof, apparently.
Yeah, we wanted a real expert to help answer these
I know
questions.
My son watches on YouTube regularly, so he'll be very excited to see me back here.
Those darn kids. You darn kids who watch this on YouTube instead of listening to it in your cars the way
I'm not going to lie. I watched
intended.
the Zam one on YouTube.
I've not watched any of them.
Like the entire thing, I watched it on YouTube. I had it on my TV. It came up on my smart TV as an option. Hey, watch this. I'm like, okay, fine, I'll watch it. And
So
45 minutes later.
That was a good one.
It was.
Yeah, we'll get some promo in here. One of the best reasons to do this on YouTube, I actually go to YouTube for our podcast when I need to go back and reference something, because our producer, Wyatt Buckner, does a phenomenal job cataloging the various segments, even the random tangents that sometimes crop up, which on the ZAM podcast, there were a lot of random tangents on the ZAM Plant podcast. So it's good to go back and find the chapters if you're looking for something specific, or did they randomly talk about something? Great way to go find that. So if you haven't checked out the YouTube version of the podcast, please go do that. It's pretty good. Sometimes you get to see cool sweatshirts that Zam has pulled out of the closet from his dad's there, or Bruce's unofficial gray bulldog, skating bulldog, but it's gray. Somewhere in Brian Nystrom somewhere is if he's watching.
I say
this,
Christian Kelling right now is losing his mind if he's watching
yelling
this.
yelling at Bruce right now.
This was a UMD Stores purchase. They sell it. I like it. So I am going to say the hoodies without pockets in the front are weird, and I still once in a while almost drop my phone because I want to put it in my hoodie pocket. That doesn't exist on here.
So anyways, before we get into listener and viewer questions, again, you guys all submitted a lot, and we greatly appreciate it. We're kind of going to do a reset for both the men and the women. I feel like a lot of the big questions that we had prior to the season, a lot of those have been answered following the men splitting at North Dakota, the women sweeping at St. Cloud State. And I want to start with the women. No Ev Gascon, no Caitlin Kramer. I think we, in the preseason, said that's like the nightmare scenario for the Bulldogs. They still beat the Huskies, getting 8 goals in the series from 5 different players, 2 from freshman Ray Mayer, 3 from Tia Johansson after she appeared on this podcast. I want to note that. Huge weekend for her. Thank you, Tia, for coming on the podcast and making us look good. Sofia Villanueva stopped 63 of the 68 shots she faced against the Huskies. Gentlemen, how confident do you now feel about the UMD women playing without Kramer and without Gascon in February if both make the 2026 Canadian Olympic team? And we should note both will be playing this weekend in the rivalry series for Canada. Canada actually leaving off some veterans like Jocelyn Larocque on that team. If both of them are in the Olympics, how do we feel about the Bulldogs without them? Bruce, I'll start with you.
Well, the other thing we have to consider is Tia Johansson, Ida Carlson probably making Team Sweden, Krista Parkinen probably making Team Finland. Gascon and Kramer being gone could be just a death knell, to be honest. The schedule does not do them any favors. They've got Ohio State and Minnesota during that stretch where they'll be likely without those players. So, I said going into the year, they needed to bank some points. And I hate to say it, they really didn't do that the way that I felt like they needed to. And, if they're healthy, besides the players that are gone, they're going to have a shot to go 500-ish while those players are gone. Okay, we can work with that. But I don't know. I do like some of these young players. I think they've got, the Molly Coles, Ray Mayers. I think they've got a chance to really blossom at that point in time. And boy, we better hope they do.
Yeah, I mean, you said it. They play Ohio State and Minnesota in that stretch, and that's 4 more games against the big 3,
and both on the road.
And they've already dropped their first 4 games against the big 3, right? And so there's a big series coming up in a couple weeks as we're talking against Ohio State. That's going to be a big series. And if that stretch is going to mean anything in terms of maybe trying to play your way into the top 3, then you have to get points here in a couple weeks against Ohio State. Even if it's just 3 of the 6, that could be okay. But if you get more than that, obviously it's great. Otherwise, I feel more confident that they're not going to finish 5th based on what I've seen and what we've seen in the first little stretch here from the UMD women. I feel comfortable saying their ceiling now feels like 4th, as most of the time it's been. Whether or not they can crack that top 3, I just don't think that it's going to happen. It's possible, but if they get swept again here in a couple weeks against Ohio State in the first half, then it's probably just mathematically really difficult given the schedule and the circumstances.
Yeah, Tia Johansson being gone for the Olympics, that's going to be tough. But that the Ohio State series coming up at Amsoil is probably their best chance to get points from the top 3, because their rematch against Wisconsin comes with them coming back from Ireland. I'm a little worried about that. Those series, though, against the Buckeyes and Gophers, like we're talking right now about players UMD is going to be missing. The Gophers aren't going to have Abby Murphy when the Bulldogs see them again. Chloe Primanero, a defenseman for the Gophers. She may or may not be there as well. Same with Gascon and Kramer. She's one of 3 college players trying to make the Canadian Olympic team, though the Gophers already have experience playing without Primanero this season after she had to serve a suspension there against the Bulldogs, and that didn't help UMD. Ohio State's going to be missing players. Like, again, I said this in the preseason, February is going to be weird in the WCHA. From my standpoint, where I feel better about the Bulldogs in February is, Bruce, do you have the schedule up there? Who else are they playing?
Bemidji and St. Thomas.
Bemidji and St. Thomas. Like, you can't lose those games.
And those are both at home, I believe.
Yeah, you can't lose those games, because those games will definitely cost you a chance of finishing in the top 3 of the WCHA. Those games could potentially, losses there could knock you out of the NCAA tournament. So those are the series I'm concerned about. And I think Ray Mayer coming up and putting up points, because Bruce is right. You're not going to have Tia Johansson. And she's kind of, right now she's leading the team in scoring and she's leading the team in both points and goals, I believe, right now. She's got 10 and 12 games, 10 goals in 12 games, 12 points is tied with Kramer for the team high. Kramer, obviously the higher average and such. So it's going to be tough not having her as well, but Ray Mayer, I think, has proven that she can put up some points here, and she's only going to get better. And then the big thing is, I think they got a goaltender. They got a backup goaltender. For all the fretting that I will admit I did in the offseason of they needed a veteran backup for Ev Gascon, Laura Schuler, not that we needed to say this, but Laura Schuler obviously knows what she's doing a lot better than I do.
I'm stunned at that development.
Yeah, stunned. Breaking news. Laura Schuler knows more about hockey than Matt Wellens. From what we've heard, Laura Schuler knows more about hockey than most of the population.
Yes.
So, they're in a good spot. But Tia Johansson, guys, man, she's been stood it out, and I'm going to give Zach some grief here. I asked the question at the start of the year, and Zach thought it was stupid enough
it
that
was.
Wyatt clipped it. Wyatt clipped it and put it all over social media. Zach thought it was a stupid question, me asking, will a transfer lead UMD in goals again, and if so, who? Because Olivia Mobley, Reese Hunt, Elizabeth Giguere have all done it recently. Tia Johansson's on track to possibly do that for UMD, so I'm going to ask, is it still a stupid question? Zach, you still say it is?
No, it was then, because she had scored 16, 19, and 16 in her first 3 seasons playing out east. So if anybody, come at me, if anybody thought that Tia Johansson would score 10 goals in her first 12 games with UMD in the WCHA, you're a liar. You knew that was a stupid question when I was asked it in September, but now it's a fight, right? Especially if both of them are in the Olympics. If Caitlin Kramer makes the Canadian team and Tia Johansson somehow doesn't make the Sweden team, then Tia Johansson is for sure going to lead the team in goals almost, unless something significantly changes.
I think Tia has a better chance of still making the Swedish Olympic team than Kramer.
But if one of them is not gone for that month, then that one has the inside track. Goals per game.
Poor Emma Soderberg, if she doesn't have Tia Johansson up front,
goals
giving
per
her some
game,
goal support.
Then it might be make it more of a fair fight. Given that one of them is going to be missing a month if that scenario happens. But if both are gone, then the way Tia's played, I mean, now it's not a stupid question, but it was in September. I won't back off that point because there's no reason. Tia Johansson's goals per game out east in her first 3 years were 0.43, 0.44, and 0.44. She's at 0.83 through her first 12 games in UMD. So that's not my fault. Nobody thought that was going to happen outside of maybe Laura Schuler and Tia Johansson.
Listen, I can't make Zach fall on this grenade all by himself. I might not have said it in September, but I thought that was a stupid question as well. And now it is not. I will agree. I'll take Tia at this point, but at this stage of the game, I'm really more concerned about her burgeoning Cy Young candidacy. Like, does she win that award before the Olympics? And if so, does she have to carry it all the way to Italy with her? Like, is that one of those things she has to take around everywhere she goes? For those that don't know what the Cy Young is, look at her score line, 10-2. That's a heck of a record for a pitcher. That would make her a Cy Young candidate. That's where that comes from. And if she wants to finish the year with 25 goals and 3 assists, I really don't care. I'll take it. And I'm sure that Laura Schuler will as well.
We all had UMD. We kind of touched on this. We all had UMD women 4th in the WCHA to start the year. They've beaten teams they should: Mercyhurst, Syracuse, Minnesota State, and St. Cloud State. They've lost to teams they always lose to: Minnesota and Wisconsin. At 8-4 overall, 4-4 in the WCHA. Any reason to think the women can crack the top 3 in the league this year? Zach?
There's not much reason, right? They have to prove they can beat these teams. It's the same story so far this year that it's been. They seem like a good team that's not in the upper echelon of teams right now in terms of across the country and in the WCHA. It seems harsh to put it that way, but that's the reality. They need to crack through that glass ceiling. There's still time left to do it. There's games against these teams to do it this year, but that is the unicorn that this team is. That's the white whale of UMD women's hockey at this point, is the top 3.
I can't argue that. I said before the year I need to see it, and so far we have not seen it. Now, yes, they should have beaten Wisconsin that first game. Yes, they probably should have beaten Minnesota in the second game against them, because I thought, I didn't see the whole game, but I saw a good chunk of the second half of that game, and they were the better team. They just couldn't find a way to score the tying goal. Those things are going to happen. That's hockey. But you said it. They have to prove they can beat these teams. Getting close is not enough. They need the points that come from beating these teams to crack the top 3. I got to see it. And at this point, I would say they're going to finish 4th. Now, St. Cloud State is saying the same thing about playing UMD. They've lost 7 straight, winless in 12. So they are fully aware of what this feels like. They know. Because they would like to crack the top 4. They would like to get home ice advantage. They think they've got a team that's good enough to do it. But in order to do that, it doesn't matter if they can pick off Ohio State once or Minnesota once or Wisconsin once. They've got to be better against UMD than they've been. And there's no sign they're going to do that after last weekend.
Yeah, I don't think there's any. UMD's got a stranglehold on 4th right now in the league. We finally saw someone. For a while there, the Badgers had a stranglehold on first place, and you weren't sure if anyone was going to beat them. Minnesota finally took one from them. So we're kind of, the entire league is still stuck in that same rut where you got the top 3. You got UMD then in that next tier of 4th. And then after that, it's everyone else. St. Cloud State's off to a rough start. Rough start. They haven't been able to beat anyone in the top 3. They can't beat UMD. They are in a tough position. I was saying before the podcast went on the air, they're so far below 500. I can't justify ranking them, even if the Huskies are better than a large chunk of college hockey. They just haven't been able to beat anyone in the upper echelon.
Yeah, you know what I will say though about the UMD women and their reality is that these top 3 teams are so good, and Minnesota has had a little bit of a dip, but they seem to be pretty good. They just beat Wisconsin again this year, so they might be on coming back to really the powerhouse that they've been historically. But if all goes right, UMD should get a chip in a chair. Right. And they've been close against Wisconsin. They've been close against Minnesota in this first half. In a 1-game scenario, I mean, yes, they still have to prove it because they've lost those games in the last several years. But can they win the WCHA title anytime soon? Probably not. Right. I don't necessarily foresee that in the next 2 to 3 years with the team that they have. But can they get to another Frozen Four? Can they win a national championship? Sure, that's probably more likely for this UMD team to win a national championship than it is to win a WCHA regular season title, just because of the way they're built. Like, they can win one game against these teams, but over the course of a season, they always seem to have these little lulls. And so, I don't know, they can still accomplish the end goal, right? Get to the NCAA tournament, win a few games, make some noise there. This team this year can do that. It's just a matter of, are they going to break through at some point?
UMD's men's team has not won a regular season conference championship since 1993. Derek Plant was on the team that won their last regular season conference championship. Now he's got 2 kids playing in the Bulldog program and 1 more on the way. I don't think there's a single fan that cares that that's the case. They care about those 3 banners.
There's some fans I hear complain about it.
Would they trade those 3 banners that are hanging up there for no, that's my point.
This is what I've always
appreciated. Relatively speaking, they don't care.
There's a fan base that actually would trade their banners for the ones that are hanging in Amsoil.
Correct. Yeah, we know that very well.
What I've always appreciated, one of the things I really appreciate and respect about the Bulldog hockey programs, men's and women's, and I notice this when I go into other rinks. And you go into other rinks, Bruce, you and I were at Ralph Engelstad Arena last weekend. We were recently at Mariucci Arena. I've been in Ritter. We were in Ritter over the summer. And you go in those places. This is North Dakota and Minnesota. Historic programs. They got banners all over the place. You want to know what most of those banners are? They're individual banners for each conference championship. Minnesota has banners for national runner-up, individual banners for national runner-up accomplishments. You know, they have a runner-up for that national championship game that they completely choked in against Quinnipiac. They got a banner hanging up for that.
Letters to M. Wellens at DuluthNews.com.
There's no 16-7.
Just throwing that out there.
There's no runner-up banner in Amsoil Arena for when the women lost to Ohio State.
Nor are there runner-up banners in there for when the men lost to Denver or to Bowling Green.
Right. There's no runner-up banners in Amsoil Arena. The only accomplishments that get their own individual banner in Amsoil is national championships. You win a conference championship, you get a little square on a banner with everything else. Same with reaching the NCAA tournament. You go to Bemidji and Mankato, they got individual banners for NCAA tournament qualification. Arizona State has a banner reaching an NCAA tournament that never actually happened.
He's not a single thing that somebody out there knows, out there on YouTube and wherever else, not a single word he just said is inaccurate.
No, he just gave every team in both leagues bulletin board material for the rest of the season. You just covered it all.
But
they're just going to throw on this podcast episode before they play UMD.
I appreciate that UMD only puts banners up for national championships. I believe UCLA is the other school that, if you go to UCLA basketball, I believe
they don't have any room. They wouldn't have
and this is the John Wooden era.
I don't think Denver has anything except for national championships.
Denver might also be one that only has national championships.
I don't want to take David Carl off. So
I'll do a correction on. Some schools only hang it for national championships. Some schools put up banners for everything. And I get it. Some teams, you got to take what you can get. Minnesota Wild. Otherwise, do they only have one banner? I think they have 2 banners.
They have a Northwest Division Championship banner.
Yeah, that's the only banner.
Really?
Yeah.
Yes, they have that
one
banner.
Northwest Division, and they lost in the first round of the playoffs, by the way, that year.
They don't have a banner for when they got to the conference finals?
No.
Just the division championship.
Just their Northwest Division Championship in 2009, whatever it was.
They're not going to get another one this year, so...
Unless they want to hang one for being the worst team in the league or winning the draft lottery, because they're closer to either of those things.
That'd be fun. They should force the worst team in the league to hang a banner for the next year. That'd be next time you ask me the NHL commissioner question. That's going to be my answer.
That might be a way to get teams to stop tanking.
Yeah,
I don't want to have to hang.
I like that idea.
Anyways, I appreciate teams that don't put up a banner for anything and everything.
So you don't want to see a team that has a banner for every player that they had to play in the NHL.
I like the puck wall. I kind of like that. I mean, it depends.
I'm just throwing that in there because there's a couple places we go to that have those.
Those arenas, I know what arenas you're talking about. They actually have the space for it. Some schools can pull that off. Some can't. It does help that one thing, UMD probably doesn't have the room to put all these banners up because they do play at a public arena. But hey, they got banners for their Hobie Baker winners, and we got a banner up there for Gabby Hughes for the Hockey Humanitarian Award. I think that is super cool. That is definitely something you should put a banner up there for. I'm just saying, I don't think national runners-up should get a banner. I don't think going to an NCAA tournament that didn't actually happen should have a banner. So, all right. We're going to take a short break. When we come back, we're going to get back on track here, and we will pivot to the men as well as answer the questions that you all submitted. You're listening to the Bulldog Insider Podcast, brought to you by the News Tribune's podcast series, Edmund Fitzgerald, 50 Years Below.
You know the name. You've heard the song. You know the number. 29 men were lost when the Edmund Fitzgerald was overcome by the gales of November 50 years ago. But do you know the rest of the story? The Duluth News Tribune has been close to this story from the beginning, and now we're looking back as the world marks a half-century since the wreck of the Edmund Fitzgerald. In this limited podcast, we will tell the story of the Fitzgerald from its launch to its loss, and we will also explore its legacy. Edmund Fitzgerald, 50 Years Below, will be released in 5 episodes this fall, starting October 13th and leading up to November 10th, 2025. Watch DuluthNewsTribune.com for articles, images, and videos that expand the story.
Welcome back to the Bulldog Insider Podcast, brought to you by Edmund Fitzgerald, 50 Years Below. The first 4 episodes are now available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, or wherever you listen to podcasts. The latest episode, titled The Church Bell Chimed, explores the immediate aftermath of the wreck. The 5th and final episode releases on the 50th anniversary of the wreck on Monday, November 10th. You can support all of the Duluth News Tribune's podcasts by visiting DuluthNewsTribune.com. Subscribe and check out all the content we have there, including the new Bulldog Insider Podcast bonus segment we just recorded during the break. It's our question of the week. And honestly, this week's turned into a mini podcast, separate episode. This week's question touched on the topic of former professional athletes in college sports. We had a very lively debate. I threw out a scenario that I think will be happening this spring, and who knows, maybe it could affect the Bulldogs as well. So check that out. Get our takes at DuluthNewsTribune.com. So before the break, we touched on the preseason WCHA rankings for the women. Now let's look at where we had the men in the NCHC. In fact, let's talk about how all of us feel about our NCHC preseason ballot 1 month into the season and just a week into NCHC play. I haven't cleared this with NCHC Associate Commissioner Michael Wiseman, but the 3 of us, we're going to resubmit our NCHC preseason ballots. So Michael will have to entirely redo the NCHC poll, or he'll just delete the email I sent him, or don't send him. So the NCHC preseason poll, I'm going to run through it here. Western Michigan was number 1, Denver 2, North Dakota 3, Arizona State 4, Colorado College 5. UMD was 6th, Omaha 7th, St. Cloud State 8th, and Miami was 9th. UMD 6th in the preseason bowl, but I think they're higher on all of our ballots. If I remember right, Bruce and Zach, you had them number 4, right?
Yep.
I had UMD number 5th. I'm going to say it right now, everyone who had UMD outside their top 4 was wrong, including me. What does your top 4 look like today in the NCHC? And where do you have the Bulldogs? Bruce, I'll start with you because Zach's apparently is going to take some.
There's
is going to be complicated. There's lines, and it could.
I don't know.
Could take a while. Might be another mini podcast.
It might be. I had Western 1, North Dakota 2, Denver 3, UMD 4. I've now got Western 1, North Dakota 2, UMD 3, and I bumped Omaha to 4th. I mean, this might bite me at some point, but they've got the best goaltender potentially in the country, and he's playing like it. The backup's pretty good. We saw that on Saturday. So I'm going to go ahead and bump Omaha up. I think that they've earned that here in the early going of the season. Then I got Denver down in 5th. I moved St. Cloud up to 6th and Arizona State down to 8th. So
And where was Omaha in your original ballot?
I had them, let me see here. I had them 7th.
And you're moving UMD up to?
3rd.
3rd.
I had them 4th. I moved them to 3rd.
You're moving up one spot. Yeah. Okay, Zach, how about you? Do you just want to show for the cameras your drawing there? Or
no, you don't show how the sausage is made because I don't really understand. This is a tough question. It was hard before the season. I don't know if it got easier having watched these teams play hockey, which typically, maybe not by this early in the season, 2 games into the conference schedule. Eventually, it's supposed to get easier once you see games happen in front of you. I don't know. Every team has a good win combined with a somewhat confusing loss. Nobody's really... There's a few teams that have underperformed, but most teams have... And there's a few that have overperformed. Miami overperformed in the early stretch of the season. But everybody else, it's kind of been a mixed bag of results. So if you twist my arm, I flirted with putting UMD first on this ballot.
Okay.
I'm not going to do it because Western still deserves the respect at this point in the season. They've had a confusing result. They lost to St. Cloud.
They got pounded by St. Cloud.
But they still, I think, have enough returners from a really good team last year, obviously, that they deserve the respect at this point of being number 1. So I moved UMD from 4 to 2. Western 1, UMD 2, North Dakota 3. I also moved Omaha into the top 4 from number 5. So it goes Western, UMD, North Dakota, Omaha in my new top 4. Denver falls from 3 to 5. I moved St. Cloud State from 8 to 6. I moved Colorado College from 6 to 7. Miami from 9 to 8. And Arizona State from 7 to 9. So Miami, I think, has done enough for me to climb out of the basement in my new poll. I know it's still very early, but the new look Redhawks,
very new look.
I'm a believer that they won't be last. I don't know if how big a believer that makes me, but their results speak for themselves.
Anthony Noreen done a nice job. He brought in 21 new players this year. And I was joking. They say, I brought her on the NCHC. She's got a bunch of new players. He's like, no, he got more than we do, which he's right about. But yeah, they've done a nice job in a short amount of time. But I need to see it. Let's see what they do when they play the Omahas and the Denvers, and we don't see them. UMD doesn't see them until February. But by then, we'll have a pretty good idea where things stand with them.
Yeah, but we're talking about moving them from 9th to 8th.
Yeah, and
so that was enough for me.
And I think Arizona State, I still wonder about their goaltending, but I think that they've got enough talent. I don't think Colin Potter has played to the and you see this a lot of times with World Junior candidates. They'll struggle out of the gate for him. He's not been as good as I thought he was going to be for them. If he gets going, which you can't rule out, that team's got a chance to take off a little bit.
Yeah, the problem is when we do this stuff is that somebody has to be 9th, right? And
also true.
It's I almost did what you usually do, Bruce, on your preseason blog, which was pick ranges. And I asked Matt before we started recording if I could just pick 5 or 6 slots in the poll because some of these teams in my mind should be even, right? Like there's no reason to put UMD above North Dakota really at this point,
right?
Other than, margins. Those two teams, they proved it last weekend, are pretty equal at this point. So to put 1-2 and 1-3 is difficult, but in the end, we have to make a choice and look even more foolish when both of our polls are wrong.
Oh, right. Yeah.
God, I hate that more than I hate anything.
Yeah. When Ciskie comes back and wins the league, we're all going to feel like idiots.
Redoing it 10 games in is Matt's worst idea because now we're going to look dumb twice. Before the season, I could say, well, I didn't know how good the transfers at Omaha or the major junior kids at Omaha would be. But now you should know, and we still don't.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think what's tough about early this season is I have this question. I joke, are they good? Like, that's what I ask about a lot of teams. Like Minnesota, you're looking at them. You go into the season and you're like, are they good? And you thought they were. And I think what we found out right now is, no, the Gophers are not good. Like the UMD sweep of the Gophers, I'm encouraged by it because it's like, hey, they beat up and dominated a team that they really should have beat up and dominated. And when you talk about Zach, like everyone has a mystifying loss. I kind of wonder how North Dakota lost to Minnesota. That's troubling. A lot of teams have had troubling losses. To be honest, the one team that doesn't have a troubling loss so far might be the Bulldogs.
And the game that they lost, the one game they lost to Augustana.
Augustana's been good.
And the coaches will tell you they played a better game in that game than the one that they beat Augustana in.
I don't know if it's mystifying is the right word, but in their results, that's a team they probably should have beat. Right, but the scoreline I think makes it look a lot worse than if you watch
it was a 2-0.
It was a 2-0 game.
Yeah.
And they scored a couple empty netters. If you look at the 4-0, it looks a lot worse.
So this is my new look. Top 4. Again, I did not have UMD in my top 4 to start the season. That was a mistake. So I originally had Western 1, North Dakota 2, Denver 3, Arizona State 4. I now have North Dakota 1, and my reason behind that is I feel like that team showed me on Friday night against UMD why they win Penrose Cups, and it's squeaking out an extra point. That series legitimately probably should have been an even split both ways, 3 points for each team. UMD got beat pretty good. I don't want to say dominated, but they got beat pretty soundly on Saturday. They had that game in control for all but those final 4 minutes on Friday, even in overtime. Ty Hansen taking care of that right away and getting them that was good to see. But I was reminded Friday why North Dakota wins Penrose Cups, and they find a way to squeak out as much points as you can in NCHC play. I got UMD number 2. I did put the Bulldogs number 2. They have the scoring, they have the goaltending. I got Western number 3 now. I get they're the defending NCHC and NCAA champions, but Hampton Zielinski's having a rough start to the year. That has me worried right now with their goaltending. I have Denver still number 4 because I think eventually they'll flip the switch and remember that the season has started and get interested. I feel like maybe that's a team that's just not interested in
they got a lot of new faces there.
They got a lot of new faces.
10 freshmen, including a couple of goalies.
Yeah, so. They're going to figure it out. They've had the most mystifying losses out of anyone to Anchorage and Lindenwood. I got St. Cloud 5. That's up from 7. I only dropped Arizona State to 6th from 4th. I'm not sure how I feel about that now. I got Omaha 7th. I feel like I know, Bruce, you got them higher and you feel better about Omaha. That's another I need to see it.
I get it.
To believe it. Same reason why I still have Miami 9th. They haven't played a very tough schedule, though they swept Ferris and Western Michigan didn't. So they also RPI. They needed OT to beat Lindenwood twice. But again, they swept Lindenwood and Denver,
they won 3 games last year.
And Denver didn't. So
they hadn't won a league game since January 2024.
Right.
Yeah.
So
I think they're not going to be like
let's not disparage their 7 wins already.
I dropped CC from 6 to 8. So that's where it is. I think it'll be competitive for. Yeah. It's going to be competitive for that final playoff spot in the NCHC. Miami is not automatically eliminated already from that. They are going to make it a competition at the end with whether it be CC, Omaha, or Arizona State. I think it's going to be fun to watch at the end of the year.
And I'll tell you what, whoever
race.
finishes 8th is going to be able to play with whoever finishes 1st.
Yeah.
The 1-8 matchup is not going to be. It could turn into that, right? A 2-game sweep, but it's not. At this point in the season, I don't think it's a foregone conclusion that 1 beats 8.
Something to keep in mind with Western Michigan. You mentioned Slukinski's not off to a great start in net, 883. At this point, 38% of the shots he's faced have been classified as high danger. That is very high. And his save percentage on those is 805 or something, which is, that's not, for high danger shots, that's not a terrible save percentage. But when you contrast that even with Adam Guyon and what he's faced so far in his, 9 games or 10 games that he's played in, 28% of the shots he's faced have been classified as high danger. Save percentage is 828. So if Western can't bring the number of high danger shots that Slukinski's facing down, they could have a tougher year than we expected.
Yeah, and I think Western is. I think they'll
figure it out.
They'll figure it out.
They have to figure it out.
I think Western and Denver will figure. Those are still 2 teams. When we get into the NCAA tournament, I'll have them going far in the bracket. I just think right now we saw this from UMD's championship teams, right? when you're going for another title, sometimes you're not always engaged in the regular season. It's a long regular season college hockey is. It's tough to go wire to wire as a top team and be on your game.
And the offensive talent now in the sport is such that if you're not on your defensive game and you're putting your goaltender in bad positions, you're going to be in a lot of trouble.
All right, listener questions. Let's try and get to as many of these as we can. Rogo on Blue Sky. This is my favorite question here because I was thinking about this as we watched Anthony Mangini not play a lot against UMD in Grand Forks last weekend. As we stand now, are the incoming transfers an upgrade or a downgrade from what we lost in the portal? Upgrade, right? Like, is that everyone in consensus about that?
I said it at the time. I thought they did well in the portal, and all that we've seen so far is emboldening that view. I'd like to see a little more of Ethan Dahlmeyer in goal before I decide on the Clayton Knapp trade, if you want to call it that. But beyond that, you can't argue with the results of the players that they brought in and what it's meant to this group. And it's, all due respect to the guys that left, I don't think any one of them are in a better position on a line chart or on the team that they're on right now than they were last year.
That's the thing, right? No Schadenfreude on this podcast.
No.
But those guys that left, there might be a few of them. I don't know what went into the decision. I haven't talked to any of them personally, but there might be a few of them just from a hockey perspective that might be looking back and saying, things weren't so bad in Duluth. I could go back there. But the guys that they brought in, I think, too, you read between the lines of some of the answers that, guys have said about the locker room and how close this group is compared to the last couple years. Obviously, it's the sophomore class that's driving the bus for the Bulldogs this year in terms of on-the-ice production, but I think also the group off the ice and how they gel and interact with each other. It sounds like there were, some fragmentations last year in the locker room, and, who knows where those came from or who was involved. But we know this year's group, a lot of them have repeatedly said how close they are, how well they get along. And the transfers have been brought up in a couple of those conversations about how easily they kind of integrated themselves. Even the Kyler Kovich, right? I don't think we've seen him at his best yet. But he's come in, he's done his job, and they voted him an alternate captain before the season. There's a meaning behind that you can come into a group that's this close and earn that kind of leadership spot before the season starts. So credit to those guys for coming in because this was a close-knit group, the returners, and I think the 5 transfers that they've had have done a good job on the ice and off the ice in terms of just being part of the team.
Bruce, you're asking about Clayton Knapp. Rough start at Lindenwood right now. Granted, he's not playing for as good of a team.
And he's playing against a lot of pretty good competition so far.
Yeah, 7 games. He has an .878 save percentage, .446 goals against average. Looking at, and this is via Elite Prospects, their cool where they now feature the leading scorer among former Bulldogs in the NCAA, Jack Smith at Minnesota State, 2 goals, 1 assist through 8 games. Kyle Bettens also has 3 points. He's playing on the top line at Northern Michigan, a not very good Northern Michigan.
0-10.
I'm a proud alum of where that program's at right now. Yeah, so 3 assists. Again, Anthony Mangini, I think the guy that people were kind of the most disappointed to see leave in the transfer portal. He was on the 4th line both nights, not logging a lot of less than 10 minutes per game. He has no points.
He had
in
last
7 games now.
Last year, 15:47 of ice time per game and 19 points. This year, not even 11 and a half minutes of ice time per game and 0 points. So, again, this is not Schadenfreude. It's the straight facts right now that it looks like, what UMD did was upgrade their depth a little bit with the decisions that were made.
All right, guys. Next question from Duluth Bulldogs Hockeytown USA on Twitter. Have the Bulldogs coaches and supporting staff figured out the portal? Seems like they have.
Was this a question before?
This was he asked a question and then he also answered it. I don't know if they ever didn't get the portal. Everyone has different philosophies, and it does change. Like the portal, it's been different. We're kind of in transfer portal 2.0 right now. Like the first transfer portal dealt a lot with guys who had extra years from the COVID-19 season. Now we're getting into the portal that is, guys coming and going who were unhappy. And I was talking with Brad Schlossman of the Grand Forks Herald over the weekend. Like there weren't the big name scorers like you saw before. There weren't a ton of like the portal used to be a lot of Kyle Koviches who were unable to go back to their school. Ashley Messier's. You had a lot of them getting kicked out of the Ivies, picking on Cornell here right now, and the Ivies. And there'll be more picking on the Ivies as this podcast goes along here, thanks to another question.
Oh, good.
I'm big on picking on the Ivies at the moment. The smart kids, they can take it. Come at me, Laura Bellamy. Like it's a different group in there. So have they figured out the portal? Yeah, I think UMD's done a good job adapting to the way the portal has changed. Not every school has adapted to the way the portal has changed every year.
Well, and their needs are different, right? The two guys that I'm thinking of when I read this question are Derek Daschke and Connor McMenamin. And I don't think either of them were bad at UMD, but they were brought in with a lot more expectation to be really big impact players. And that's not saying that Scout Truman and Kyle Gaffney and Kyler Kovich are not expected to make an impact, but you've got your Plant Shagabe line. That's your scoring line. You've got your Hansen-Kleber pairing. That's your top pairing. Like the guys that they were able to bring in this year, they were able to have that conversation of here's what we need you to do. Can you fill that role? Are you comfortable with that role? Like Scott Sandlin was pretty honest with us before the season that they had that conversation with Kyler Kovich. You're going to come in here, you're going to kill penalties, you're going to play on a checking line, you're not going to get a lot of power play time. Not because you can't play on the power play, but that's just not what we need, right? We've got power play guys. And so he came in knowing exactly what was expected of him, where I think in years past, they've had to go kind of reach for guys that maybe didn't fit exactly the role that they needed. But even then, like I think Connor McMenamin and Derek Daschke were good players. They just maybe didn't fully meet the expectation of the fan base when they were announced as coming out of the portal.
Yeah, and just the other thing, I talked to Cody Chupp last week, and we kind of get into the whole portal thing, and he related it to just how they recruit in general, and they play the long game. It's a slow play with these guys, and there's a reason why when Matt builds out his database on the website with the recruits, it's very rare he has to go in there and take a player out of it because they just don't. If they commit a kid, that kid's coming in under almost every circumstance. There are cases that doesn't work out, but a lot more often than not it does. And the kid ends up here, and they do what they can to develop that player. That's what they believe in, that draft and develop philosophy, and it extends to recruiting out of the portal. They try to make sure the players that they bring in, I'm not saying other schools don't do this, but UMD, it's a more protracted process maybe, where the player has to fit what they're looking for on the ice and off the ice, or it's not going to work out. You see a kid show up in the portal, you might start dreaming, oh, he'd look great in Bulldog colors, and maybe he would, but if the personality's not a fit, if the style he wants to play is not a fit for what they're playing at UMD, they're not going to recruit the player.
John on Facebook, he didn't call me out, but he kind of is calling me out right here. From what we've seen so far, UMD's showing they are better than people gave them credit for in national preseason polls. I did not have the Bulldogs in my preseason USCHO poll.
And I don't have a vote, so you can't blame that on me.
I now have them in the last 2 weeks. I've had them in the top 10 of my USCHO poll. So I'm correcting myself here. His question is actually more related. We got more than a couple questions about the Zam Plant, Max Plant, Jason Shagabe line. John's question about the line, if they keep producing, do you think opponents will start keying on them more and more, or is UMD's depth good enough to make that tough to do? Teams are already keying in on them.
If they're not, they should.
Right. Yeah, if they're not, I don't know what they're doing.
And I mean, Dane Jackson on Friday, I was reading his comments that Brad got, and he had mentioned, well, this is our plan, and it didn't work. Dane had said it during the week, like, this is our plan, it may or may not work. And yeah, teams are keying on them. I think sometimes the depth has been there, Sometimes it hasn't.
This is going to go into the Connolly Fontaine question that gets brought up later on, because Scott brought that comparison up last year when these three had barely played together because of Max's injury, and then Zam got hurt. But the similarity is that go back to 10-11. Guess what? There were nights those guys were lighting it up. It didn't matter what you did against them. They found a way. There were nights that they didn't do that. And then if the depth didn't show up, if the depth had a tough night, i.e. Saturday in Grand Forks, then the team had a rough night. That stuff's going to happen once in a while. That's just the reality of what they've got built with this team. It doesn't mean that you break up the top line. I think there's enough depth on this team that they've shown they can score. The freshman line has had big weekends. Scout Truman's got 4 goals. Cal Arnott's contributed offensively. Gaffney will. They've gotten plenty of chances. I'm not worried about them. The fourth line, I'd like to get a little more out of them. The defensive group, I'd like to get a little more out of them. But I think there's enough depth on this team that I'm not too concerned about that.
Yeah, there's no reason to break them up, right? They're too dynamic, they're too creative, they're too talented, and similar to the Connolly Fontaine line. And Scott Sandlin has mentioned this to us too. Is they're so talented that they can have a bad night, and in an instant it turns into a good night. And then in another instant, it turns into a great night, right? They can play bad for 55 minutes. And in those 5 minutes that they don't play bad, they could score 3 goals for you. That's how good they are. So it's not that every team hasn't already been keen on them and coming with a plan, but they're so good that it doesn't matter some nights. And then there's going to be nights like Saturday in North Dakota, right? Like Michael Jordan didn't drop 40 every night.
No.
There were some nights that he got bottled up, and that happened on Saturday, and it's going to happen again to these guys. But, their depth, I think you talked about the secondary scoring. The goaltending and the defense is just as important to this question, because Adam Guyon in the defense has given these guys time, whereas last year, by the time they kind of got going in a couple of these late start games where they didn't play well in that first 10, 15, 20 minutes, it was already 2 or 3-0. Completely different story this year, and now it's 0-0, maybe 1-0 UMD by the time Plant Shagabe rolls around and kind of gets kicking, and then they make it lopsided the other direction real quickly. So I think almost the goaltending is a bigger plus for UMD this season to this line staying together, because now you score a goal and it's a game-changing goal versus a goal last year that might have made it 4-1.
I want to try and get to everyone that submitted questions on here. Max Veach on Twitter, he's calling it the PSP line. By the way,
that's a terrible name. Sorry, Max.
I've seen that out there. It makes things short and sweet. Like, I don't mind it. If PSP maintains this pace of production, how fun. What's the likelihood all 3 return? I think because Vic...
I already kicked Shagabe off the line next year. So
Bruce is already kicking Shagabe off the line.
Zam looked at me like I had
like there's an excellent. Like, I think in any other year you'd probably see in 2 of these 3 probably turning pro, but Victor Plant hanging out there. I don't think the Plants go anywhere. I think those 3 brothers really, really want to play together next season. So I think the Plants are at least back. The question then would be Jason Shagabe. Does Tampa want to pull him early? Tampa's
not a team that does that.
Not a team that rushes a guy out of college. I think all 3 are going to be back next year.
These 3 aren't the prototypical leave early for the NHL type of player, right? They're small, they're talented, but they've got really good hands, really good hockey sense and vision, but they're not, hey, I'm going to go out there and, I know they're killing penalties here, but killing penalties in the NHL is a whole heck of a lot different.
Yeah.
So I think these guys meet the bill of, and you look at you mentioned Ben Steeves earlier, these guys are, I think, more talented, all due respect to Ben Steeves, but they're the same type of player. And you don't make that jump after your sophomore season. As good as Max is, he's not going to go light it up in the NHL next year. He's going to be an NHL player, but there's no harm to him or to the Red Wings in letting him stay maybe even 2 more years with how his game is. But if he, progresses and has a 100-point season next year, then you got to take him. But I just don't see any of them succeeding in the NHL next season.
And keep in mind with the Lightning, they did not think that Isaac Howard, after a Hobey Baker Award in the year he had at Michigan State, they did not think he was ready for even bottom 6 minutes and a little power play time. So they didn't sign him. He was ready to go back to school before they traded him to Edmonton, and he signed there, and they put him right in the NHL. Tampa Bay didn't think Isaac Howard was ready. No offense to Jason Shogabay. Isaac Howard was more ready for the NHL than Jason Shogabay is now.
Yeah, same kind of body type, though, too, for like a smaller guy.
And he played 3 years.
And he's probably faster than two of the three of them.
Yep.
Bulldog and Banjos on Twitter, he had 2 questions. I liked this one. Who do you think is the current unsung hero of the team? Like your Billy Exel type player.
I went with Scout Truman because anybody who pisses off multiple Gophers in one game is a friend of mine. And he did that.
He said he was just trying to get people to follow him on Instagram.
Well,
I don't.
It did not work, Matt. They were mad. They don't have Instagram, apparently, at the University of Minnesota. They're more TikTok, I guess. I don't know.
Zach, who do you got?
Well, we've already talked about Kyler Kovich. I've liked him, but I think the best is yet to come. I've really liked Ryan Zaremba. To be honest with you, he's not a Billy Exel type player, but the unsung hero. I think he's kind of the motor, and I'm curious to see how he comes back, right? Because he didn't play. He and Hunter Anderson didn't play Saturday at North Dakota, and that line wasn't as good as it's been with Daniel Schlein. But for my money, Ryan Zaremba is kind of the motor of that line, and we'll see if when the three of them get back together, if he can continue that. But he might be kind of an unsung hero of that line just to give him some good shifts. And
if he was out there playing sick, which it sounded like he was on Friday, that would explain why he is the motor of that line, why that line wasn't as effective.
Right.
Yeah, that line.
Yeah, you could pick all three of them, to be honest.
You could. Daniel Schlein's been really. I'm going to pick Hunter Anderson from that line because the stat that jumped out to me, Bulldogs are 8-0 with Hunter Anderson in the lineup. Like, that entire line might be the unsung hero, and they may be the offensive force in there too. I mean, you look at the two, like if you're looking for that secondary scoring, the Scout Truman's a good pick. That entire line, they're a grinder line. They're listed as second on the line chart, but they kind of play more like a third line style of play. They kind of remind me of a Parker Mackay third line. That was really good there for the Bulldogs during those championship seasons. That freshman line, you look at the 2 games where the Plant Shogabay line has struggled, where they haven't produced points. It was against Augustana, and then Max just had the 1 assist for the only point for that line on Saturday against North Dakota. It's when the freshman line wasn't together. I'm not saying Hunter Anderson is responsible for all the points of that line, but I think those 3, while defensively they can be maybe a liability at times, they're freshmen. What freshmen aren't defensive liabilities on the ice? They, I think, keep teams in check. Ryan Zaremba's a good pick by Zach there. He's got some go, man. Like he can go. 22 is all over the ice. You see him all the time. So that line may be the unsung line, and I'm curious to see how that line kind of evolves as the year goes along. I don't know if any of those guys that we picked are the Billy Exel type players, but that's kind of my unsung heroes right now at this point of the Bulldogs. Noah Nelson on Twitter. Who's been your guys' biggest surprise? He's got 3 guys, so we'll try and pick these real quick. Who's been your guys' biggest surprise, the X Factor, and who is your team MVP so far this season?
Surprise first. I wrote down Ty Hansen, not because we didn't expect him to be on the top pairing, but I think he's better than I expected in his sophomore season. I mean, I think he's been the team's best defenseman, and I don't think it's particularly close. So I wrote down him, even though it's not, I really shouldn't be surprised, but I am a little bit about how big a jump he's taken. The X Factor, I wrote down the pairing of Aaron Pionk and Joey Pierce. They've been together the last 4 games, and you have Hansen and Kleber, but if Pionk and Pierce can become kind of a formidable D pairing for this team, I think that could help things in a big way. And then MVP is Max. He's got 1.9 points a game. He's on pace for 80.
Leads the country in points right now at 19.
That's just math. I didn't do it.
No, because it was math. There's no way you did that.
No, I put it in my calculator and it did it. But that's assuming they make it to the national championship game and play 42 or 43 games. But 80 points he's on pace for. It's him or Adam Guyon, but I went with Max.
I said the H word for Max Plant very early, and that would be Hobie. And he will be in the team picture on that thing if this keeps up. There's no doubt in my mind.
That means another banner.
Yeah, there we go with that again. My surprise,
son of a banner.
Yeah, my surprise. I said Hunter Anderson. I didn't know what they had in him. He's not the fleetest of foot, but he plays the game faster than he is, and his feet will catch up. And boy, when they do, they got something there. Adam Guyon's my X factor. He's got to keep this up. Now we got to see how he responds against St. Cloud State after I thought a tough game for him against North Dakota. That's kind of the next, the evolution of this young man is now we got to see how he responds after having a game where maybe he wasn't at his best. And the MVP is Max Plant. Max Plant is, I said this a few weeks back. I said it again after the Gopher series. Max Plant is the engine of this hockey team. And everything revolves around him, and that's no disrespect to other guys that are helping drive this thing, but Max Plant is the guy. And when it comes Hobie time, there's a reason why his name's going to be out there, and people, I think they see this in how he's been playing so far, and I think the best is yet to come from him.
I'll go Ryan Zaremba as my biggest surprise. Though Hunter Anderson, I think both of those two, you could probably put them together. I think Zach already opened the door for this. The X factor, I'm going to go the defensive pairing of Ty Hansen and Adam Kleber. They're plus 11.
Crazy.
Second in the nation to only the team MVP, Max Plant. I'd love to get Adam Guyon in there as I think Bruce picked him well as an X factor as well. You could argue Adam Guyon as the MVP because that was an area that they really needed to improve was goaltending. But Zach did the numbers there. Max Plant right now is, he's leading the country in points at 19. He's good. He passes the eye test, man. Max Plant, good at hockey.
There's the headline.
Is the headline.
Title of the podcast.
Max Plant is good at hockey. Trust me, that's sometimes what I've thought about throwing as the headline to a couple of these gamers this year. Max Plant, good at hockey. Let's see here. We'll get to one more. I think we're going to call this a public service announcement. Max Veach, I'm going to let you get one more question in here on Twitter. Historically, the pairwise could start being referenced between Thanksgiving and December. I'm an old school guy of thinking it was January with the NPI, the NCAA percentage index, seemingly lagging in reliability. When do you expect that system could be taken seriously? Remember when I said I'm going to rip the Ivy League schools one more time in this podcast?
Laura Bellamy, turn off whatever you're listening to this on right now.
She probably agrees with me on this.
She's smart enough.
I've joked with a couple people. The Ivy League motto at the start of the college hockey season is you can't lose if you don't play. It's screwing up so much right now. Like the Ivies don't play the first month of the season. They don't start until some of them don't start until November. Like on the men's side, like it really screws up everything. Like if you go into like points per game right now, for stats or goaltending averages, like save percentage, goals against average, it's all screwed up because you got a bunch of players who have played one game. We're recording this on November 4th, and there are players who have only played one game while you got other teams playing 8 to 10 already. Like the Ivies, the ancient 8 has been used by some Ivy League people. They don't play the first month of the season. They sit it out. Some of them play only 30 games a year, not even the maximum of 34. So it's just, that's what kills it right now. I think for both the men and women, you should probably by now be able to get a tiny bit of a picture, especially with all the non-conference play that's gone on. But you have basically an entire league. Most of the ECAC hasn't played yet. So from what USCHO doesn't even have the men's NPI up on their website right now. And it's because they don't find it reliable. So
did you schedule this podcast just to air some grievances that you've been thinking about?
No, it's because I
got to talk to somebody. We might as well do
we had some scheduling conflicts with some players, and it seemed like this was a good time to bring Bruce on. You all had a lot of questions more than we were able to get to. I'm sorry to everyone except Dan Jacobson. We're leaving off your question right now.
Oh, I was looking forward to an answer to that.
Well, Dan.
The answer is one word. It's buffets. Duh.
Yeah, Dan on Blue Sky, the same Dan who fell asleep during a game at Fairbanks to start the season. Dan, you open this door. You're going to make fun of Bruce for his culinary choices. We're going to make fun of you for falling asleep during a hockey game.
Hey, that's a heck of a time change, okay?
It is. He wanted to know where Bruce would eat in Las Vegas at the Frozen Four.
And the answer is the buffets.
There it is, Dan. We're letting your question get answered as a loyal supporter of the News Tribune's coverage. But
would you go to In-N-Out Burger?
I've never been.
They got burgers.
I've heard that.
Yeah. See,
that's a terrible name for a burger joint, though.
Yeah, well,
if you think about
it's a whole nother podcast.
That is an awful name for any place that serves food. That's an awful name for it.
Yeah.
Oh, that's all the time we have on the Bulldog Insider Podcast.
PSA for all the listeners out there: if you don't want to look at the NPI in October because it's not reliable, you don't have to click on it. Because if you didn't click on it, people would not publish it. That's that simple.
Wait till after Christmas.
10
After you open your presents.
Everyone's got 10 games, then we can talk about it.
Yeah. Which means not until Christmas. Then the Ivy League will have finally played 10 games this season. All right. That's all the time we have on the Bulldog Insider Podcast. You can find us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, or wherever you get your podcasts. Like us, subscribe, and rate us. For more Bulldogs hockey coverage, visit DuluthNewsTribune.com/Bulldog Insider. Subscribe to gain access to all of our coverage all season long. The women get the week off unless you're Caitlin Kramer or Ev Gascon. You're playing in the rivalry series. Or you're Tia Johansson and Ida Carlson. They are in the the women's Euro hockey series back home in Sweden. But the men, they are hosting St. Cloud State, a St. Cloud State team that I think is better than a lot of us maybe thought in the preseason. So this should be interesting. Bruce, are you going to broadcast this one on the radio?
I do intend to. 610, 103.9 of the Twin Ports, AM 650 up in Hibbing, northlandnewsradio.com for the stream. The app works as well.
Zach, after 2 weeks off.
Glorious weeks.
I'm sure.
You're back on TV this week, right?
Same as Bruce. We're going to try our best. Yep. Friday and Saturday from Amsoil. We'll be back 2 weekends in a row. I don't know. I'm going to have to get some extra sleep this week. 2 weekends in a row. I got to work. Bummer.
How are you going to handle this?
I don't know. I really enjoyed my 2 weekends off.
I'm sure you did.
I listened to you because I was driving during the first period of the Friday North Dakota game.
Either I apologize or thank you, one or the other.
Well,
or both.
They were playing well. I didn't listen to you on Saturday, so I don't know how the Saturday game went.
I kept saying over and over again, they're 8-2. Everybody calm down. They're 8-2. We'll take this. It's okay.
Thanks, everyone, for watching. Thanks, everyone, for listening. We will catch you next week.